we did do one, Pete, where me and you sort of talked about the Dan and Tim weekend.
Yes.
Without Dan being present. Yeah, but
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, cool. Right, I'll do the little intro then, Dan.
So you're even on the podcast when you're not on the podcast.
Well, I think I speak for everybody when I say 5% is not enough.
Go, right, I'll crack on. Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast. This is episode 200, which we have been building up to for the last 200 weeks, really. And we're here now. We're on episode 200. And we are joined by a very, very special guest today, all the way from Utah in the United States, Mr. Dan John. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing really well. And hey, guy, 200, that's a lot of episodes. And congratulations. Pat Flynn told me, oh, this has to be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that most podcasts don't make it to 7. It's just, and I don't think people, gentle listeners, I don't think you realize how much work goes into this. I don't think how much I'm going to say time, but time is time. But it's just that sometimes it's just a matter of grit in knocking out a podcast. It sounds so simple, you're going to switch on a few things and then go. But to fill an hour and a half a week, it's a commitment. And so congratulations to all of them.
I think you, Dan, you're on around 250 of yours, aren't you? Because I've been listening to yours. Yeah.
I think I was working on 253 yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
excellent.
Again, I'm not trying to one up you at all. I'm just it comes so naturally for me to be better than everybody else. So
you've spoke about that before, though. It was like when James Brees was talking about his 777 for water walk sleep, and you were like, well, mine's 888, so it's one better.
So, guys, before we delve into this conversation, I do say this every week, I am aware that we are picking up new listeners, new watchers every week. So it may seem mad to say, but it is possible that someone might be listening to this or watching this who has not met or listened to Dan John before. And if that is the case, this is Dan's 10th visit on the podcast. So we just said, this is episode 200. So with a simple bit of maths, Dan has been on exactly 5% of our podcast so far. But if you haven't listened to any of the previous ones, I mean, they're easy to find. Just go back. The last time Dan was on was episode 172.
That's amazing.
Which was about 6 months ago. It actually came out, I checked before we came on, it came out in December, the 14th of December. And that was when Dan John was on with Tim Anderson. And since then, obviously, Dan has been over to England and to Essex and spent the weekend with us. That was back in April. And that was a fantastic weekend. And Dan is joining us today. So we've got about an hour with Dan today, which is going to be fantastic. And Dan, we did speak, has just got a new book that's come out in the last kind of couple of weeks, I think, called The Armour Building Formula, Bodybuilding for Real People. And I must confess, I haven't read the whole thing yet. I did purchase it yesterday and I've had a kind of a look, and it's something I'm getting it printed at the moment, and then I'm going to be delving into it. But yeah, Dan, since we spoke to you, since we saw you just a couple of months ago, really, this new book's come out. And yeah, what's going on with you at the moment with the new book? I mean, was that a long time coming? Was that something you've been working on for a while?
Oh, yeah, that's it was well over a year work. So I have this. So if you ever do a kettlebell certification with me, the graduation workout, I came up with it years ago. Do you want me to go into this whole thing?
Yeah, no, that would be great for the origins. Yeah.
So part of the problem, and the workout's going to be called the Armour Building Complex, but it was called the grad program. So Pavel came up to me, this is a long time ago, and he said, the finisher on these weekend certs is terrible. And I had to, it was like, and then I don't want to swear in your podcast, but in America, we have a word called cluster, and there's the F-bomb behind it. And it was, I mean, I was down in Orlando. I had this very organized thing. And the whole time I was trying to go through this, 20-minute workout, I had these other people barking in my ear. This is too hard. This is too easy. You need to do lunges. My thought, and I just stopped right there and I said, lunges? We don't teach lunges at kettlebell certs, at least that I've been at, because it's not one of the big six, you know what I'm, and so it was a nightmare. Mine was just a waste of time. And so people are exhausted from pressing. Most people come into the kettlebell certs so worried about the snatch test and all the swings that they really kind of don't get enough volume pressing. So their press is, it's pressed out of there. Okay. So I came up with the safest 3 exercises I could think of, which I think the nice thing about the double kettlebell clean, short stroke, you don't ruin your hands, a single press, and then I figured you could do as many squats, you know, and I said, okay, a reasonable thing would be 2, 1, 3. One of my assistant coaches noted that at the time that it was really a lot like how we had our American football running backs. Those are the 3 armor building movements we were using, because you get hit a lot. You know, it's like it's rugby, you get hit a lot, you know, and everyone's trying to get to the ball. So it became the ABC, the armor building complex. And so this is that's 10, 12, 15 years ago. And it was, people were doing it. And then I did just a tiny little video on it, you know, just a nothing, you know, one of those, you know, this is okay. If you don't have time for the humane burpee, here's the armor building complex kind of thing, you know. And if it didn't just go viral, I mean, I mean, I've got really famous people, you know, up on hills and fjords and fields doing this little 2-1-3, 2-1-3. And then people started asking me how to program it. My thought was, yeah, every time you finish a cert, do it. You know, I mean, that was the plan. And then, can I do this? And of course, it's the internet. So when I first wrote about the Tabata front squat program, I wrote an article for Testosterone Nation. And the first comment was, if it's so good, why don't you do it every day? And I remember thinking, oh my God, you know, the first time I did the Tabata front squat workout, my dog at the time, Lexi, she was in that, you know, seated, I'm worried about daddy look, because I had laid down on the ground because I couldn't really move. I kind of staggered away and laid down. And I don't know. I mean, and like I've said before, to save all the planet, I would do the Tabata front squat protocol 28 days in a row. Okay. To save both of you, I would do it once. You know, I mean, it's just, it's really hard. Well, and I'm just remember thinking with the armor building complex, people were saying, should I do this every workout? And I'm like, dude, you know, if you do 30 rounds of it, it's 90 squats. That's a lot of squats. I don't care what the workout is. If 90 free squats will make it hard to walk up and down stairs. So my original thought was about twice a week, but quickly when I did it, I thought, yeah, you could do that. You could do that for a couple of weeks, and then you'd kind of get lit. You know, you'd be burned up a little bit. So that's when I came up with the 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks. You know, 2-1, 2-1. And then after that, of course, it's the internet. So, you know, nobody can ever think for themselves, which is a good thing because that's what makes me write books. Then I said, well, they would say, well, what would be complementary with this? And my logically was like, well, higher volume of press workouts. And then that morphed into the Armour Building Formula. So on week 1, let's just say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, make it simple. Monday and Friday, you do the ABC. Wednesday, you do the high rep presses. Week 2, Monday and Friday, you do the high rep presses. And on Wednesday, you do the ABC. And I wrote that and people liked it. And of course, then more questions came. And then how do I get up to this 30 minutes, you know, every minute on the minute kind of thing? And then that became an 8 to 12 week program for normal people. Okay. And you got to remember, quick small point, folks, you got to remember, I work with abnormal people, according, young Frankenstein's abnormal. My discus thrower, Emily, the first time she did it, I didn't make it clear enough. So she was doing 5 ABCs in a row, then resting every minute on the minute, as what she thought, oh, then a minute rest. I got to tell you, folks, if you want to be a certifiable tough guy, grab 24s, do 5 ABCs in a row, rest a minute, and do that again for a few times. So some of the people I work with are just different. They're just, I think I'm a fast twitch monster, and then these guys.
So I think in the book, one bit that I did read, Dan, just to kind of expand upon that point, there's a bit in the book where you talk about who it's either who your people are or who you're writing this for. And,
yes.
it is very, and even in the title, it's bodybuilding for real people. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, what is your kind of, I know you mentioned in the book, but your kind of age demographic and the kind of people that you are now, you mentioned, I think, through like analytics and stuff, you can tell the kind of age of people who are drawn to your stuff and who interact with you a lot. It's quite interesting, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and you'll even notice on my podcast coming up, I have 2 straight questions from 60-year-olds and then a question from a 56-year-old. So, and this is the problem. The internet is run. The people who comment on the internet are either zit-faced teenage boys from Nebraska. What would be the equivalent of Nebraska? Give me a place nobody wants to be from in England, besides Essex.
I was going to say Essex. I don't know, Pete. You do it. You alienate.
I don't know. We'll get letters or emails or whatever. I can't. Nah, it'd be like Stoke or somewhere like that, like some small, like a small northern town, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's either zit-faced boys from these, small northern towns, or 20-somethings who are experts. It's funny because I have to really curate my comment section, because I'll get one, like I wrote a 20-minute workout and this guy wrote, it'd be better to spend 20 minutes reading the Bible. And I'm like, well, I felt like saying, or, Gilgamesh or the Quran or, the Rig Vedas or, or
it also depends whether it's on a Kindle or if you've got like the hard copy, it probably would be, right? Because it's
there you go. Goblet Squats, all the religious texts in the world. And then the very next one was Trump 2024. Those were the first 2 posts underneath my workouts. And I'm like, these are just people looking for a fight, but you know what? Never did they use their names. Okay. They never use their names. So one of the things that's really ignored in fitness is, I was about to say 35 and above is ignored in most of fitness, but to be honest with you, anybody from 10 to infinity is ignored by the fitness industry, who have actual lives and want to be in. I want to train a little bit. I want to be in shape. I want to look better, feel better, move better. That was the joy of bringing Tim, I think, Tim Anderson, Original Strength, because Tim is wonderful about the idea of it. This is a gift to be able to move and feel better and all that. So one of the things I try to do, and of course there's a barbell section in the book. There's also, if you want dumbbells, whatever you want. But for most people, and it's interesting, I'm going to just stop right there when I say barbells. A 50-kilo barbell set is probably enough for the vast majority of your listeners. A 50-kilo barbell set. Now, certainly, and I don't want to be that guy, but I could probably snatch that with one hand. Okay. No, I know I can, but that doesn't matter. I'm a circus freak, and you're a normal person with a real life. You're not, so when it comes down to training with this adjustable barbell set that's 50 kilos, there's not a lot of people out there who are helping that group. I was watching somebody attack someone I know online yesterday Oh, let me get rid of those stripes real quick. Sorry about that.
That's right.
Sun just popped up over Mount Olympus there, so I was getting.
I was telling James about this. What it makes you look like, when you do them, you see them videos of the people going, "I was in Nam," and they've got the blinds stripes, like Seymour Skinner does it on The Simpsons, doesn't he? So you should leave it on, and you can talk about that.
Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now. That's
yeah.
That's a funny scene.
Yeah, that lightens the mood for us, doesn't it?
Wait, Daddy, this isn't a comedy. Oh, wait, it gets funny. Yeah. So, there, I think people who have a home, a piece of equipment in their home, are very underrepresented, and so, I really did have the vision for them. When I look at I have my own little forum, and very good place to be, by the way, folks. Dan John University. I know I'm selling it. I'm sorry, but the forum there is filled. I mean, you ask a question, you get 4 and 6 and 10 paragraph answers by the community. You'll ask a very simple question. I'm new at this. What should I do? And people care, and I like that. So when I'm on my forum and when I'm actually answering the questions from on my podcast, and even when I'm with you or when I'm up with Oli in Denmark, I'm really starting to get a sense that we are totally missing this. And if you are a personal trainer and you want to make money, look at me right here. See this guy here? I just want to look good, feel good, move good. I'm 67 years old. You guys see me. I can barely even get out of a chair. I'm so broken, right? The fact that I can walk is a miracle. Wouldn't you agree, James? I mean, it's just disgusting to see me move. But there is that we just avoid them. But if you can make me look good, feel good, move good, here's money. Here, take it. Yet everybody wants to be training. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, everybody wants to be Brett Contreras, where you specialize in high level female fitness contestants' rear ends. I mean, that is the job we all think we're going to get when we first start that. Or you're going to work for some professional team. But in truth, you're going to deal with a lot of ugly people like me. And I'm sorry, but so if you're a personal trainer, change your vision. It's interesting. I work with a number of personal trainers, and this time of year is really, really difficult in the States for trainers because a lot of the adolescents just disappear, or you get hired for 2 weeks to train. Dad shows up at the gym and says, "I want you to turn little Billy into a superstar. How long do I have? 2 weeks. Oh, I have a program for you. 2 weeks. Didn't realize I had so much time. Usually it's only 12 days, So that's why I wrote the book. And I appreciate you actually knowing that, James. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, because I mean the other thing that's interesting, because when we did the kind of the debrief, if you like, from the weekend we spent with you, I remember you said to me at one point over the weekend that initially there were, and this is going to lead somewhere, what I'm going to say, that people, you felt initially like pressure to come up with new stuff all the time, or new concepts or new things, because people wanted new. But then you realize that you'd just be coming up with new for the sake of new. And I know with your movement matrix, you always say, well, if I'm going to take something out and put something else in, there has to be a real reason why I'm doing that now, because it's at a level. And I think that with your programs, that 3 of your kind of programs, if you like, Easy Strength, probably most famously, the 10,000 swing challenge, and if we say Armour Building Complex as well, they are very, very simple. Simple, not easy, and but people kind of always seem to want to get more clarification on them, or want them to be more complicated, or want there to be more, or the one lift a day program, which you talk about a lot. You've got these things. They're so, if you read it and if you do it and if you just follow it, it's so straightforward. But then you always seem to get so many follow-up questions, because I'm amazed on the podcast, the number of still the number of easy strength questions you get, you know, the number of armor building complex questions you get, the number of 10,000 swing challenge questions you get. I mean, I won't ask, does it ever annoy you? People keep asking you the same questions, but I mean, what is it about people you think that where it's not just as straightforward to read, to hear you talk about it, and then to do it? People want this extra level of complexity or this extra secret sauce or something, you know. I mean, it's quite an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? I think.
I'm actually I've actually consulted people who are smarty pants in the world of like, and by the way, don't think psychiatry or psychology, think therapy. I've asked therapy people about this. And one, I did get a nice piece of information, and it's not very nice. Okay, so basically I'll kind of sum it this way. When people don't get what they want, when they fail, they want why are conspiracy theories so popular in the United States right now? Well, A, people are uneducated. B, they were not allowed to be told when they were young that they're stupid. They had to, you know, so that's why I think conspiracy theories. But when you sit down with me and you're, are you guys kilos or pounds? I always forget that.
Kilos, probably both still, but kilos predominantly.
Okay. Yeah. You're 30 kilos overweight, and you sit down. We've done all the medical tests. We've done all the stuff. You know, I've got a team of 29 physicians in the room, and we kind of all agree that you have not eaten well, and you have refused to exercise for the past 40 years. Well, there has to be more than that. No, actually, it's the fact that you eat. By the way, in the UK, I just read an interesting thing. 75% of the food most people eat is processed.
Mm. Yeah.
You're not going to overcome that as a culture, as a country.
Obesity's doubled in the last 30 years as well.
Way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, oh yeah. I mean, you win, but now the NHS is struggling as well, because it's like people are, you know, we've advanced further, but we've got less healthy, which it just doesn't make sense, does it? But we know why.
And by the way, if you get a chance, I usually wouldn't recommend South Park, but the episode they did on Ozempic, I honestly, the fact that, you know, someone listening can say, Dan John recommended South Park, that's a reach, but it's true. And I understand that the NHS, right, is struggled last year financially because of the Ozempic, right? Or you guys have, there's another name for it there, but right, that the number of prescriptions given for these, and they really are miraculous weight loss drugs. And that's great. But the truth is, it's the processed foods first, and then it's the lack of mobility second. Not mobility this way, you know, mobility that way. And of course, because of both of those, the impact it has on sleep and all the other important issues of life. So I'm answering your question, James. Nobody wants to hear the simple thing, because it always tends to, you know, Eileen John, my mother of blessed memory, when you point one finger, 3 point back to you. So when it comes to the obesity crisis, fingers point, I'm more than willing to point fingers at the, I'm more than happy to point fingers at the industrial food complex. You know, here in the United States, between fast food and our mammoth, I mean, we have our cereal companies are very powerful. They have our fast food companies are very, and by the way, I'm not a nut. Would you agree with that, James? I'm not.
Yeah, no, what you're talking. Yeah, this is not a conspiracy theory. What you're talking about,
okay.
but yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm not, I don't want the listeners to go, oh, this guy's just a kook. No, here in the States, you know, these guys lobby our senators, and of course, a lot of our senators from the Midwest. I mean, they make their dime off of wheat, corn, soybean, and of course, I'll just say one quick point and to summarize. I make my own bread and my own sauerkraut. And one of the reasons I do is I have to make a jar of sauerkraut that's this big. It's 1 or 2 cabbages and about that much salt.
Mm.
If I buy it from the store, I can taste the salt. When I make my own bread, there you go. Very proud of you.
I've got 2 of those on the go at the minute.
I got a red cabbage one. When I make my own bread, the amount of sugar and salt in it is so low, it makes you laugh.
Mm.
And then you look at what the loaf of bread is at the store, and it's sugar and salt are, you know, right there in the first ingredients.
Mm.
So you can do things to mitigate what happens. However, you know, when I make my own bread, I'm to the point now that so I never make one loaf of bread. Let me explain it this way. I always make multiple bags of the dry ingredients. So if I want to make bread, I make multiple bags of the dry ingredients so that only the wet ingredients have to be added. So that makes making bread. We could probably make bread in the process. I'm saying 5 minutes, but that's because, you know, I lost something and had to look for it, you know. So
I just quickly say, Dan, I think this is the 3rd podcast in a row. We had one where we talked, I think we talked at length about sauerkraut, and then we've talked at length about bone broth, and now we're talking again about sauerkraut and bread making. So it's great, but this is. I mean, I read a book recently, all about the politics of food and the economics of food and the business and the corporate nature of food, and like you're saying, the lobbyists, the subsidies, all the kind of financial backing behind food, and the reason why it is as it is. And this kind of stuff that we're talking about, this making your own stuff, making food from scratch, from single ingredient whole foods, it's kind of, I think, if we're not careful, within a generation or two, it will be lost, you know, and everything will be, you know, churned out by 2 or 3 big global companies. And when 1 or 2 companies control the food supply and it's all processed, we're in trouble. Sorry,
there was a stat on that one of the doctors over here came up with. You know, the twin doctors we've got who are on the telly.
Yeah, I've got one of the books from them called
Van Tulligan or whatever.
Ultra processed people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was talking about the ultra processed food, and he said, I think something like 75% of the world's calories are made by 6 companies. It's that might be wrong, but it's a big percentage are made by 6 companies.
I would think, yeah, and a great way to turn one's health around. Eat all you want. Just make it, like you just said, single ingredient foods, or and I know I must, and I hope the listeners don't think I'm some crazy person that, I made the joke about we'll put on our aluminum hats, before we start talking. I don't believe in conspiracies. It's an anathema to my entire education. But you're exactly right. Here in the United States, we had a real issue when we were down to 3 car companies. And when the 70s came around, those 3 car companies couldn't pivot and deal with the energy crisis. And that's when the German and Japanese car makers basically took over America. I mean, when I was young, nobody ever drove anything besides a GM, Chrysler, Ford, and whatever the other company was. I can never keep them all straight. But there's an issue when you thin down, because something is going to change. I don't know what it is, but something always happens. And if you don't have the ability to pivot, things go wrong. That's coaching 101, is just to you don't want to talk about it, but something bad is going to happen. Your job is to pivot with it and turn that into a boon, a gift, not problem. So
It's funny
so
because there's a group I'm in, going back to the keeping things simple, and there's a group I'm in, and we were having a chat last night. And I mean, I'm no Pat Flynn, right? But we were talking about like Marcus Aurelius and
sure.
you know, Lao Tzu and who's it, the Art of War, who's that?
Oh yeah,
Sun
Sun.
Tzu and all and like Buddha and all of this sort of stuff. And it's like all of those things from years ago, they all basically, we were talking about it from a neurological point of view of how people live and stuff like that. And they knew that instinctively. And my question was like, do we instinctively know what to do? But we've got a frontal lobe and all this like research now that neurology is like, it tells us about our neurology, which we're doing exactly what they were doing anyway, naturally. And it's I don't know if you know him. It's a guy called Brian Grasso who runs this group. He knows who you are, but yeah. So he runs this group that I'm in, and his view on that was basically, because I was saying were Marcus Aurelius and Lao Tzu and all these people just deeper thinkers than everyone else. And his view, and it was like kind of, well, not really, because everyone had more time to do stuff. Now it's just you're being bombarded with information. You haven't got time to deeply think about anything. So therefore, you have things get more complicated because you've got everyone telling you how to do things rather than just switching your computer off, switching your phone off and everything, and just sitting writing down like, here's what I eat. Here's how much sleep I get. You know, here's how stressed I am. All of these things. And everyone wants it on an Aura ring or like a phone app or something like that. And it's like, just take a step back because it is that simple. And instinctively, we know what to do. We just don't do it.
You know, people ask me about all that, you know, so, you know, that you're working with a person in the gym and they got the continuous glucose monitor on, and they got the Aura ring and stuff. But when you look at them training, you don't see them do very much. It's because they're being bombarded by so many, watching people on a treadmill watch a television set and adjust their phone. Well, they're getting bombarded with all kinds of things. And, you know, and it happens to me. There's a guy named Rusty Moore I've got great respect for. He's online as he's famous for, he trains people for the yacht bod look. And I really like his work a lot. Well, he sent me a bunch of articles from another person that he had recommended to me. And there I go deep diving. And as I'm deep diving, my brain is throwing out all this great information that I've built up over 67 years. And now I'm going to start. Wait, see what I just said there? Even for me, reading articles throws the sand under what I believe. And that's why I think community isn't so important. And Peter, thank you for talking about you're in community with this group. So it gives you a chance, humans talking. I can guarantee if I sent every listener on this 2,000 articles, which is probably about what I read a year, I would say. I read probably 3 to 5 articles a day. I'm not, and please, you can come by and pat me on the back later on. I'll give you my home address. But if I was to read all of those in one day, and then at the end of the day, you know, Peter says to me, so how do you get in shape? My response would be, I have no idea. And so that's why it's funny you mentioned in the book about the busy people thing, or real people, is that most of the people who ask me for help aren't online all day looking at vixens over on Instagram. You know, here's a little thing I learned to help me with my Turkish getup, you know, oh, look at me. Okay. I have a V-neck on, but nothing's happening there, is it? So, you know, you just get more and more and more, and you fall back, and it's like, okay, I had a rough night's sleep last night. I think you guys know I have my dog, Sirius Black, probably not going to be with us much longer. He had a nice little bout of diarrhea about 3 in the morning inside of his kennel. So, he's not long for this planet. And so I didn't get a great night's sleep, because when you wake up to a dog having a diarrhea attack in the kennel, I know, James, you've had children, you notice, like, you get up and it impacts your day. But I know what the answer to my problem right now is. It's sleep. Tonight, I'll I'll go. Oh, by the way, last night I watched Princess Bride, and you should, by law, have to watch Princess Bride once a year. Okay, just it should be I have dictated it. Let me call the king. Okay, uh, but so today I wouldn't say I'm tired, but I know that I had a rougher night. So what? I'm drinking my coffee. I'm fasting. My group's going to come over here. Once again, did you hear that? I'm talking with you guys. My group's going to come over here. We're having Tonic Thursday, which is an hour of original strength. It's going to be lovely. After that, I have some things I have to do. Nothing is a big deal. And I'll just stay the course with what I'm doing because I have community, because I try to keep things simple. And my response to life's bad issues usually is, I usually try to come up with simple solutions to it. And both of you know, and in fact, James, you probably know too well. I mean, I've had some issues the last, few years in my personal life with a number of deaths to people very, very close to me. But every single day, my community showed up and we worked out. And I get that in the, middle of a set of presses or squats, someone's do this, you doing okay? And I would say, yeah, I'm doing okay. And not great. And okay, we're here for you. And to me, that's what's missing. The communal aspect of training, making things simple enough that you can do it. If you decide to use this program with your people, James, you're going to have clients who will be like, I just need to be, that's it. I just going to, in the barbell program, there's two lifts in the beginning program. It's clean and press. Well, there's three, but the continuous clean and press and the curl. That's it. And you're going to do that for a couple of weeks. I've already had people get back to me and said, it is the best thing I've ever done. I'm like, what did you do? He goes, I do 5 sets of 8 in the continuous clean and press, superset with curls. And then I walk out the door and I feel good. I look good. I'm happy. And I'm like, well, that's not exactly what I meant. There's more, but listen, man, if that's working, and it is, that's great. And, you just come in, you click that switch off on your brain, you do it and you walk out the door. And that gives you more energy up here to make better food choices. So, Dan, how do you have time to bake bread? Well, first off, I have a bread machine, so I'm cheating. But second is I'm not sitting around all day going, oh God, I got to do this new thing I saw online. So I need a finisher after my finisher after my finisher. No, you're done. Go home.
What's great, Dan, is we always, whenever we speak to you, we start, along one line of kind of conversational questioning, and it very well. We one of the things we spoke about, which Pete's mentioned, is this kind of simplification, and I think we spoke about it on a separate podcast. And then when we talked about what we'd got from the weekend with you, and you're kind of leading us down, not leading us down this path consciously, but you're making me think of things here where sometimes it's what people need is not the, in the book again, I scanned through and you were talking about like I think it was Frank Zane's kind of bodybuilding program he had.
Yeah.
And it's like it's probably 12 exercises a workout, and it's 5 sets of 12 per exercise, and it's huge intensity and all the rest of it. But what most, and the term you use, real people need, really is, it's this kind of structure and this systemization, which you've mentioned already today, by having the dry ingredients for the bread set aside. And you talk about, having a weekly menu and a weekly shopping list. And when you put all your vegetables in the fridge, they're in glass containers, so you can see what they are without opening them. And the sauerkraut you've mentioned, and all this kind of simplification through process and routine, and well, I suppose it's through process really, but having these systems in place that make everything else easier in life. And I think that is, if more people did that, there would probably be less questions around, like you say, because asking more and more and more questions is really just maybe a delaying tactic from actually doing the action that you need to do. I would sort of imagine?
Well, let's go back to my most boring thing I say almost every day to everybody. My dentist says only 1 out of 20 people floss their teeth. Okay. So you know you should floss your teeth, but if you don't have a system for it, you can't do it. So my system is I buy those baggies of floss sticks and I stick them in the driver's side well. So when I drive, I floss.
Hmm.
Well, it's not a habit. It's a system. And then what happens over time, a system just becomes a habit, and it becomes thoughtless. I tell people this all the time who say, how do you remember to floss? I always say, well, how do you remember to brush your teeth? And it's like, do you really think about brushing your teeth? To the point that even in my workshops now, I'm telling people to brush their teeth with their opposite hand. Just try that, because I'll notice when I first did it, I'd be brushing like this, and I could see my right hand sneaking over saying, it was like going, no, not that. No, that's not the way to do this. I was having this internal war in like, stop. You get that. You're right. Systems. So in the United States are called Pyrex bowls, but I buy only Pyrex and I get them in lots of three different sizes, 3 different lids. And I have lots of them because I want to see when I open my fridge, I want to see the food I should be eating, not the food I want to be eating necessarily. So yeah, it's systems. You buy this 50 kilo exercise bar, you get it. I don't know where the cheap wholesalers are in England, but I guarantee you've got a place that sells 50 kilo adjustable bar.
There's a place called Argos, which I think probably most people, where I got my first weight set
Yeah.
from, that was the gold vinyl,
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
York, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to Argos, you get the York bar, you get whoever the name of the person. There's always a different name on there. And you go home and you put it in a corner and here, do my barbell workout with that. Well, won't I need more weight? Yeah, maybe, but for now, if you're doing 25 or 30 kilo continuous clean and press, 30 kilos will wake up the echoes of your heart and lungs, and good things will happen. But to me, that's a system, is that you have this piece of equipment, you have an idea what you're going to do with it. And so you can, and if you're going to lift Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, say, for example, I'm just picking out of my head. When you walk past it on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, you're not going to go, oh, why did I buy that? Because the system is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. A big one for me, and I think I've mentioned this before, I have a white laundry basket and a dark laundry basket. I do white laundry on Monday. Well, if I see it overflowing on Friday because of, change the beds, or we had a guest and I changed the beds, that's a Monday task. My brain looks at it and goes, Monday task. And so I'm not constantly, folks, it's something I learned when I first became a coach, is you've got to be proactive, not reactive. Crappy parents react, I think. They constantly are reacting. And I got to tell you, in the United States right now, parents are reaction machines. It's called helicopter parenting. It's, there's a great TV show about these rich parents who faked athletic careers for their kids to get them into better schools. That's reactive parenting. Proactive is making sure your kid reads when they're young and reads books and doesn't stay online all the time, so they earn grades worthy of an academic a scholarship. It's not you doing the work for your fill in the blank kid. I would like to drop the F-bomb with the kid before the kid. I'd like to use the word idiot. I'd like to use lazy, but those would all be inappropriate to talk about people's children, people's lazy, ignorant, idiotic children. But proactive, not reactive. And I think what happens, what systems are, very simply, James, it's being proactive as much as you can in life. I think if you're a person who hires James as a personal trainer, you need to be proactive and X out those boxes when you're supposed to be in the gym, plus the half-hour commute or whatever it takes to get there, and the half-hour return or whatever it takes to get there. That to me is being proactive. Reactive is going, hell, oh God, I'm supposed to be at the gym in 3 minutes. Unique results there in beautiful Essex. Yes.
So Dan, to come back onto the kind of the armor building formula, to kind of circle back to it, where do you see, because I know people will have listened to you lots, if they've listened to this podcast, would have heard you now 10 times on here, and hopefully they may have read some of your books and listened to your own podcast as well.
No, that's not what happens, but go ahead, keep talking.
Okay.
In an ideal world, that would happen.
In an ideal world, that would happen.
I answered a guy a question on my podcast. He's asked 4 questions on my podcast, and on the 4th one, he wrote in the comments below, I really appreciate this. I'm actually looking into buying some of your products now. I'm like, yeah, okay. I do, but it's just, and then well, even on when you posted, wow,
yeah.
This book's so good, I might even buy the book. Well, God, what do we?
I think you wrote something like, I really don't know how to get people to buy my books or something.
I really don't know how to get people to buy my book.
Where do you see this? Where does this sit in? I mean, and I know we've talked about seasonal training before, but if we take just a few programs off the top of my head, say the 10,000 swing challenge, easy strength, the 1 lift a day program. I know it's more of an athletic kind of program, but maybe mass made simple. You've got the armor building formula. Where do you see it kind of within the kind of the Dan John metaverse or the Dan John universe? Where does the armor building formula kind of sit for you? Well,
say like you wanted to look good for a wedding and you gave me time, which will never happen, so I'm not worried. This is a fantasy. 10,000 swing challenge to lean up, easy strength for fat loss for 2 rounds. So that's we're looking at 3. We're now into about 3 to 5 months investment. Then the armor building formula would be, if you really wanted to do things the way I think you should. The people who've been doing the armor building formula, the biggest thing they notice is I've really, my shirts are tighter in the shoulders, and it's noticeable that I've been doing something different. So that would be, if you want to do 3 of my programs in a row for a wedding or to look good at a thing, that would be the order. After easy strength, when you slide over to the armor building complex, you should be stronger and be able to up some load. So yeah, I got to cough real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. And I know that kind of in again, not from reading the whole book yet, but there's obviously the overhead press. You've got like I suppose you'd call it a specialized variety or a variety of press movements that you can use, haven't you? You've got the double press that can be done. You've got like a single press. You've got like a seesaw press. I think there's also what is the touchdown press? Is that where you?
Oh, okay. So this is a goal, right?
Yeah.
Is this what in?
Yeah, like rugby goalposts or NFL posts. Yeah.
Okay. So ready? So both hands are in the waiter extended overhead position. I bring one down, press up. I bring one down and press up, and I alternate. But you're resting overhead. So the rest period is, so if you have a lighter, so for example, if you and I were using the 16s, instantly I'd go to the touchdown press for you. Because just holding it isometrically while you do that whole stroke with the other arm really does start to exhaust, the whole system. If you're doing alternating touchdown press with 16s, and let's say you're going up to 10 reps, so that time that you're locked out is a long time. So it is a very there's no advantages to this position at all. You can't hide from it. And if you do struggle with the load coming back up, it really does light up the whole everything, whatever you want to call the core or the column, whatever. Yeah. So that's the touchdown press. So if you don't have heavy bells, that's what I recommend you do. Yeah.
That's great. I've never done that before.
Oh,
I've done like what one side, other side with the other bell in the rack, and then I've done seesaws, but I've never actually done that.
Yeah. Oh,
It's obvious, isn't it?
it's so much harder than it sounds when I explain it.
Yeah.
And
I have done that with a group before. Actually, I didn't know it was called that. I hadn't, because and it was from something you'd said. I'd listened to one of the podcasts, but I hadn't heard it referred to as the. So I was thinking the touchdown press might almost be, like you said, there's the continuous clean and press with a barbell, which I presume you touch on the floor and then you come back up.
either
So,
the floor or the hang, depending on who you are
yeah,
and how,
yeah. So I wasn't sure.
you at your height, James, I would say just from the hang.
Yeah. Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And what is next for you, Dan? I mean, what are you working on at the moment? Is there something, knowing you, there's probably something else sort of percolating in the
Well,
mind or in the, something you're working on, is there?
yeah, I don't know if I should share it with the world, but I'll tell you guys. It's so back in 2000 so I blew my wrist apart. What was it? 2002. And that's when loaded carries. That's when I started. That's when I just became the loaded carries guy, because that's the only way I could lift. But at the same time, I was coaching a couple of people trying to make the Olympic team in 04. And it's weird because by coaching them and doing the loaded carries and figuring out, basically starting the roots of easy strength, I was having them do a program, and I gave it to them in a place in Orlando, Florida. We were at a Denny's. So these workouts are called the Denny's workouts.
Okay.
And so basically every workout starts with a complex. And I have 6 different complexes. They're free online. They're all over the place. People, the thing about the internet is if it's mine, it's everyone's, right? So everyone steals my work. Like the one guy who claimed to invent the goblet squat, even though he only started coaching in 2009, and my men's health article had come out in 2003. But other than that, he invented it 6 years after the article, which is impressive. He moved through time. You start every workout with a complex. Let me give you an example of a complex. So you do 8 snatch grip Romanian deadlifts, you do 8 hang snatches, you do 8 overhead presses, you do 8 back squats, you do 8 good mornings, you flip the bar to the front, and you finish with 8 rows. You put the weight down, you rest, you do it again 3 times. Sounds easy until you actually do it. Then, so we start off with a complex every time, that complex. There's 5 others, and it's a lot of work. The heart rate goes to the roof. Your whole body gets greased up. You feel good. You're ready to go. Then we have a strength circuit. Right now we're doing 4 exercises, and I hate it. I got to get those to 5 because 4 is not a Fibonacci number, and it drives me crazy. So you do, for example, one of the ones I have on I work with the women. I have all my women throwers are training with me this summer in my gym. So it's kind of fun. It's really, so they do, for example, okay. So the seesaw press, followed by rows, followed by a 30-second hang, followed by goblet squats, all for whatever the number of the day is, except for the hang, okay? So 3 sets of 12. So you do all 4 of those exercises, you rest, you repeat, you rest, you repeat. After that, we do either a 1 minute on, 2 minute rest, or Tabata choice. Yesterday for our Tabatas, we did overhead squats, and it sucked. I can't tell you how horrible it felt to do those at age 67. I'm just telling you, folks, they were terrible, terrible. But last week we did cross crawls. That's that march in place thing. So that was pretty easy. We did suitcase carries, Tabata style suitcase carries, left for 20 seconds, right for 20. You get the drift. And with the 1 minute on, 2 minutes off, we usually do like skipping or backwards running, which is a terrible thing to do. We do hammer swings or something like that. For a minute is a long time to do a lift. And so we do those 3 things back, and they're all high conditioning. Like my athletes told me, Sophie told me yesterday, she goes, none of it is hard, but the combination is. And so I'm starting to think that for most people, the continuous clean and press is the exercise that got me rethinking this again. Because here you're doing an exercise, and when you follow the book in the barbell, after you do the continuous clean and press for 3 weeks, then we add a front squat, a single. So clean and press for 8, 1 single front squat. And then over the next few weeks, you build up to 8 front squats. So clean and press for 8, and then 8 front squats. And the response I'm getting from people who've done it is like, it is so much harder than it looks on paper. So where I'm moving at mentally right now is I'm wondering if I should put together a book about, now, so just for clarity, a complex is when you pick up the bar and you do a series of exercises back to back to back to back, and then put the bar on the ground. Our strength workout is a circuit, and that's when you have a piece of equipment, you do reps with it, you move to another movement piece of equipment, you do reps with it, and that's circuit training. Okay, so a lot of people mentally will put complexes in and make them circuits. Okay, I really think complexes have a value. Pat Flynn has his early works were just complexes, kettlebell complexes. Funny, when I first,
I think I heard something recently where you said, I think you were on with Pat, and you said that the complexes were so complex that you had it written down in front of you, like in big letters, because you wouldn't be able to remember. Like you said, the armor building complex is 2 cleans, 1 press, 3 squats. You that's straightforward. But he had so many exercises that you had to have it written down in front of you so you wouldn't forget what you were doing.
that's from
Like Steven Tyler in the 70s when he had the lyrics written across the front of the stage, so he could remember the lyrics for Aerosmith.
So that was from his book, Paleo Workouts for Dummies. And when he came out with the book, I did all 180 days. And now listen, folks, I hope you guys heard that. How many people do you know, for a friend, would spend half a year doing a workout? And at the end of it, the book had already been published. I sent him this email and I said, dude, here are the issues.
Yeah.
And it was because it was, but that's, to me, I'm always amazed online. Like I can remember one time Pavel having put out a book, and the day it came out, there was 300 reviews of the book and of the program he was doing. The book came out, on, oh, by the way, and before we go any farther, I don't know when this is going to come out, but today is June 6th. Yeah, and today is that's when we're speaking. It's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And as many of you know, my family was impacted by these events greatly. Many of the people I grew up with respecting, there's a famous American baseball player named Yogi Berra who got hurt on D-Day. If you're a Star Trek fan, Scotty was in D-Day. And let's just make sure, sometime today, it's interesting because I told you guys about this. I made a joke about Nazis and someone got offended by it. Folks, if you're offended by me making fun of the Nazis, I am wordless right now. I don't even know what I would do to you. My mother would give you a slap, though, I'll tell you that. So just remember, let's just remember today, take a moment to remember the courage of to have a gate go down, and the first thing you see is everybody who'd run out before you slaughtered on a beach, and you run on that same damn beach. So yeah, so sorry, didn't mean to get into it, but it's important to me. Okay. Yeah, I think we're talking about the Armour Building Complex, but I just want to make sure we mention that. Yeah, it is one of the things I am trying to do in my career is to make things not just simple, but to make things doable. And I think we've gotten away from that with the complexity and the, I feel for people. Only 1 in 20 Americans train, exercise at all. And I used to, and I realized that my job now is to feed that 1 in 20. But at the same time, I also really appreciate why the 19 out of 20 don't work out, because what the hell? I mean, uh, so what's more important, cardio or resistance training? The answer is yes, they're both important. But how do they ever get to there? Get to even, so I need to run a marathon? No, you need to go for a walk after dinner.
Mm.
It's that simple.
We did a podcast. We'll start to wrap up, Dan, in a minute. But we did a podcast a while ago, and we used a quote, and I can't remember where so I won't quote. I don't know who it was, but the quote was, "Complication is the enemy of implementation." And we kind of talked about this for a period of time, and it's kind of what you're saying, isn't it? That the more complicated something is, the more confusing it is, the less likely someone is to take any action at all, because they'll just be paralyzed by over information. And I think that, yeah, so I think that's really the programs that you write, the books that you write, the way that you talk, the way that you present. It's driving people to action, and the more simple we can make, and which is why, you do make things intentionally simple, and then why people seem to want to overcomplicate it every time. But the more complicated you make it, the less likely someone's going to act on it. So yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think about it. I know that, James, you have 2 children, right? 2?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. Does Peter, do you have children?
No, I've got a dog.
Okay,
He's
okay,
kind
but
of a surrogate child.
Bob's a good example too. But if James and I were to sit down right now and try to convince you to have children by giving you the daily list of what you need to do for a newborn, an infant, a toddler, a preschooler, we call it elementary schooler. Here in the States, when they become active in sports, you become a bus. If we were to write down all the things that you're going to have to do to be a parent, there's a real good chance you would go, and no. Now, but there's a biological urge that seems to make us at least practice the act of what makes babies. And by the way, folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, online, as I understand it, you can see videos.
That's there's a show over here called Only Fools and Horses, which was on in the 80s, hugely popular comedy. And his girlfriend's pregnant and she's going to have a baby, and he goes, so they go to the prenatal classes.
Yeah.
And he's talking to his uncle, who's this old guy in the corner, and he's like, they showed us videos of how it all happens. He goes, you've got some of them in there? He goes, not those ones, man.
And if I was to sit down with somebody, oh gosh, could you imagine sitting down? Well, I've said this before in my other work. If you were to sit down with a 5-year-old and you would just bring in all the boxes of papers they have to fill out, essays they would have to write, all the books they would have to read, and just bring in and show this 5-year-old all the material they're going to have to fill out to get their basic degree, it probably would, it would be a lot. It would fill up a lot of boxes, right? And you just look over at little Timmy or Billy and say, you're going to fill out all those papers and you do all that work. The kid would freak out. But every day they go to school and they color within the lines. Oh, I remember that was a big deal. My daughter, Kelly, she one time said to me, yeah, she stays in the lines. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that was a big deal, but I got to remind myself it is, and if you go day by day, and if you build brick upon brick, as I always say in my work, and you just keep kind of coming back, all your dreams in a sense can come true. Now I can't make everything happen, but you can certainly make progress in so many areas of your life by doing just a little every day and just keep coming back. And I think what the fitness industry has done to us is there's this idea that there's a perfect workout, there's a perfect diet, there's all these recovery tools that you have to have, and then all we do is make the poor people who have, and there are listeners right now are probably maybe one or two of them are driving to work right now going, holy cow, man, I can barely hold it all inside my head. Right. But if you can get a 10-minute workout in today, or a 5-minute walk and a couple of press up push-ups, you're doing okay. Yeah.
That's that was on an Alan Watts lecture I listened to a while back. And he talks about that. And he says about like saying, say you're an alcoholic. And this is like, this would have been in the 50s when he was saying this. And it's like, he's like, say you're an alcoholic and you say, right, I'm going to give up drinking. And then what your brain does is just lays out 365 days of not drinking and says, go on then. So his philosophy on it was just you try not to tell your brain, you just say, I'm going to do today, and don't even tell it what you're doing tomorrow, and then try and it just build a habit, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same sort of thing. Your brain just lays it all out in front of you, doesn't it? And just goes like, nah, you might as well not bother.
I went to the bike shop yesterday. I love my bike shop. And the guy who owns the bike shop used to do workshops on selling. And he told me something I just got to remember. So he also owns a donut shop. And he says he teaches his employees how to talk to people. And the idea is this: when you walk in, would you like 1 dozen or 2 dozen donuts? You don't say, when you're selling, you don't say to people, certainly you say, hello, how are you? But then you say, can I get you anything? No, you say, would you like 1 dozen donuts? Yeah. Like 1 dozen or 2 dozen donuts? Oh, geez, I was just coming in for 1. Oh, sure. 1 is fine. Let me get, but all of a sudden they're walking out with 2 dozen donuts, and that's the human brain works. And I like what you said there. One of the things I do, so on the back of my computer is my pirate map. And when people ask me how do I work out every day, it's not a fact that I don't roll out of bed and, oh, hell, I got to work out today. It's just kind of a given in my life, because I do a little every day. Oh, by the way, is every workout I do great? Folks, my workouts, I joke, the standard I use is 5, and 1 out of 5 workouts is good. 1 out of 5 workouts is horrid. 3 out of 5 workouts are, whatever. But when you get 100 workouts with this formula, those 20 good ones, there's a couple of those 20 good ones that are really good. And when you work out 1,000 times, that gives you 200 workouts. And of those 200, about 20 are really good. And 1 or 2 of them I write about online.
No, and then what you do is you save those up and you share them on Instagram and Facebook, and only them, and then all the other ones you forget about them.
oh, folks, I make this joke all the time. In June of 1979, I took on a bet, and one of my workouts, I'll turn into kilos. So my workout was, I back squatted 145 kilos for 30. I rested. I back squatted 125 for 30. I rested. And then I back squatted 100 for 30 and I rested. And as soon as I recover, I'm going to do it again. So I talk about this damn workout in 1979 like it's a standard thing I do all the time. 1979. Peter, were you alive?
Yeah, I would have been 3.
James, were you alive?
Yeah, I would have been. I was born in 78, so I would have been 1.
Yeah. I'm bragging about a workout when you guys were 1 and 3. I'm just saying. And there's a fitness professional here in the Americas. She had a whole bunch of photos taken, and her Instagram feed is that photo shoot. If you go back through her feed, you start to get a sense that that photo shoot is at least 3 or 4 years old. And yet she's still, if you want to look like this, you need to drink my Miracle Coffee 107 or whatever the hell it is, And listen, I ought to be posting pictures when I was, at the Utah State University, had traps like this. I looked good. I was 8.9% body fat, walking around, massive thighs, looking good. Yeah, I'd love to post those pictures, but I have something called integrity, and I can't. So all I do is show my ugly ass face at 67 and say, oh yeah, I'm still alive. Good for me. Yeah.
Right, guys, we are going to have to wrap up there. Dan, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. That is episode 200. If people want, you've mentioned Dan John University. I've been a member on your site for a long time, years now. If people do want to go on there, there's so much on there. There's the workout generator, there's all of your books on there. There's the forum on there. There's literally everything. What do people go to? Is danjohnuniversity.com? danjohnuniversity.com.
I gotta even for you. I mean, if you're a personal trainer, I think the workout generator is money because you can use the workout generator to make the workouts for your clients. If you're a person making money in fitness, you have to spend so much time with retention, so much time, getting new people, so much time. Programming can get in your way sometimes. And so what's nice about it is you have this, you can use it for your clients. You can do it. You press the button, you can print it off, and there's your individual workout for Edna. And then boom, here's your individual workout for Peter. And you kind of sometimes have to do that, I think, to keep your bearings. And then you spend your time when you're coaching, you're coaching. You're coaching the movement, you're pushing people, you're helping people along. The word coach is it's a four-wheeled carriage that takes you from here to there. That's what we do as coaches. We take you from here to there. And I always joke that my job is to keep slapping your head back inside the coach so you stop doing stupid stuff, which ruins everything. I appreciate it. Listen, I just have to say one bit of feedback about health audio, and I hope I speak for all your listeners. More Dan John.
We will definitely be speaking to you again, Dan, in the near future. It's been
5% is not enough.
5% is not enough. Okay. It is lovely speaking to you. Episode 200. Pete and we're off to Cardiff. I'm off to Cardiff in Wales tomorrow. Pete is off to Cardiff. We're there for the UK's Strongest Man, aren't we, Pete? So we've got a big arena sort of thing there. I'm taking my daughter Bella, who's 7. She loves watching all the strongman stuff. So we're heading to Cardiff.
It's live on Channel 5 as well, so we'll give you a wave.
And does Cardiff still have that great? So in Cardiff, there's like this great little area that's around. It's like I got to be careful. There's like a lagoon or it's a great.
It's like a marina or a harbor or something.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance, there's all that Doctor Who stuff around it too. And I don't know if your daughter or if you guys like Doctor Who. I didn't know anything about it, but it is a delightful walk interacting with all the Doctor Who stuff. So, hey, I'm selling that out to Cardiff.
My ex-brother-in-law used to be a runner on that show because he was at university and he was learning to be a director. And he was in the industry, and they do obviously loads of filming of everything in Cardiff. So he ended up directing a Cardiff, a Welsh soap opera. But he was when David Tennant was Doctor Who, he was a runner on the show.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, he loved it. He used to tell us all these stories. It was great. He went on holiday, not on holiday. He went on like locations with him and all that around Italy and places like that. It was great.
That's him. Hey, enjoy Cardiff. If you see any kids look like me, that never happened. Okay.
So Cardiff, looking forward to it. That's going to be a fantastic weekend. We'll talk about that next week, I'm sure. We will be back next week, guys, for episode 201. This has been episode 200 with Dan John. Thank you so much, Dan. It's been great speaking to you again.
Let's get t-shirts commemorating this that say more Dan John. Okay.
More Dan John. Brilliant. Okay. I'll tell you, that just put my thumb. It has, Pete, you've
got AI on yours, mate.
My thumb comes up. Dear me. Right. Okay. We'll see you next week for episode 201. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.